Hi, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while, but we're ready to get to another video in the series on the Racket programming language. And today we're going to talk about the notion of control flow and continuations in the context of functional programming. To review, again, the essentials of functional programming is that you use higher order functions, which are functions that take functions to compute values. And by going through this process, you've done a computation. But the thing about it is that this model obviously has some limitations. And these limitations come up fairly quickly. And it's what happens when you have a function evaluation or a function that doesn't make any sense. The most classic example of this is that what if you try to divide something by zero, right? That doesn't make any sense. There's no way of doing that. That is mathematically in the domain of, algebra, the algebra of whole numbers. It doesn't make sense. You can't divide by zero. So what most programming languages did from the very beginning is they had this notion of an error, which some exceptional circumstance that came along. I can't do anything here, so we can't just move forward, right? And then they also then later on introduced this notion of, well, you can try to handle an error, and then if you can recover from it, and then go on and move forward in the computation. So Lisp had this basically an error and handlers. Now, as object-oriented languages came into place and became more prominent, especially C++, they had this notion of a structured exception, where you had this idea where you define an exception as a class, and you have try-catch blocks, so you can try a bunch of code, catch any exceptions that come out of it, handle them, or even rethrow a new exception or that same exception. And then later on, languages added, like Java, added things like a finally block that said, regardless if you throw an exception and handle it in this try block or not, always run this finally block to clean up all these resources that you need to clean up, like sockets and all these kind of connections that you need to make sure get closed before the program can exit. Now, Racket has this concept of with raise and with handlers, and basically doing basic exceptions. And the thing about it, though, what's interesting is that the notion of all these resources that you need, like file handles, sockets, all these resources that you need to close, and in order for a program to exit gracefully, and not have things where it's like, oh, there's a process that has this file open, and the file system is now confused because it's open, but it doesn't know what it has as open and so like that. Racket introduces the notion of a custodian, and as you go off and make these resources, the custodian tracks them and makes sure that gets released when certain garbage is collected or when the program exits, and so on and so forth. So control flow is really simple. I mean, it's kind of the first thing you get exposed to when you're doing programming is that you always branch. You have branches. You always need to make decisions. If this, then else. And certainly we've done a lot of that in Racket as well, cond and else. But now with exceptions, you can kind of see that there's control flow operations that are beyond branching or looping or these other kind of basic constructs that we're used to. And the question now comes up, well, how do you express that in a functional context? Well, first of all, just as an aside, there's two ways of doing this. And the first one is for people that already know about this, from like Haskell. Monads are the way that Haskell tries to capture control flow in terms of using functions. And that works for most cases. Haskell also has a notion of an error that needs to be, basically that just says, regardless of where you are inside of a program, if you're in a monadic context or not, you can just say, error, done. I can't move forward. This computation has to end. This program has to end. And it makes the distinction that it is very important to make a distinction between exceptions, as they happen in the monadic context, versus errors, which always can happen in a Haskell program. But what we're going to do is we're going to learn another way of doing it, and that's continuations. But to understand continuations, we need to understand this notion of program evaluation. And we have kind of been doing this informally, but now we kind of need to find a little bit more formally. Now, a lot of times you're taught to think about how a program in terms of how it executes on a machine, in terms of what's the heap doing? What am I allocating on the stack on the heap? What's my call stack like? How's my call stack growing and shrinking? And that's very good because ultimately that is ultimately what's happening on the machine. And understanding what's going on there makes it really important for people to do things like debug programs and stuff like that. But it's equally valuable, and in this context is more useful, to define it in terms of this abstract evaluation concept. doesn't have to do anything with a machine, but could be more in the area of like just mathematics um, than actual hardware. So what we're going to do here is that to track this how we evaluate expression, I'm going to introduce this concept of a hole that I'm going to represent as this, basically this, square brackets side by side. And a hole is going to show us where the evaluation is at a given point. And when a value is fully reduced, there's nothing more I can do with it. I'm going to mark it with a tilde in front of it, just so that we know we've taken care of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and just show this as a quick example. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting the hole on the very left of this expression. And we're going to go off and say, okay, I'm going to take a look at this. And I have this form, which I know to be an application form, which means I have something that is procedure that I need to add arguments to it that I'm going to ultimately call and get back some value. So the first thing it does is that it's going to move the hole inside, in front of this plus thing. And then it's going to try to move forward in terms of evaluation. And now what it's going to try to do is like, do I know that this plus thing is actually a procedure, something I can call? And what we would do is that in evaluation, we also have the notion of a context of basically what we know about a program, what's defined. And we know in this case that, oh, no, wait a minute, plus is totally a function that we can call. We're totally fine. So we're going to go ahead and say that's completely reduced. And now I can move the whole forward and take a look at this first argument. And now we're going to look at it and say, oh, what do I need to do here? Well, it's also going to figure out, oh, this is a literal number. I totally know what to do with literal numbers, excuse me. Going to totally just mark it as just a 1. It's totally fully reduced. Now I get to this next thing and say, oh, well, this is also an application like I did from the very top. So I'm going to go in and try to first figure out, is, the star, is this a procedure? It is. Bang, going to be able to mark it as reduced. Going off, is this 2? Oh, well, this is a literal number again, so I'm going to mark it as 2. Move the whole into the 3. As I've done here, now we're moving at the whole of the 3. And now we can go off and say, okay, well, what I've done here is that now I have this little 3, and now I have this whole afterwards. And what I can do is I can have this rule that says, okay, if you have a whole right after this of something that's fully reduced application, go off and make that application and substitute back in the result of that function call. And it's going to go off and say, okay, boom. And I know it's going to, in this case, return me, a 6. And that's going to be fully reduced. And now I have this thing where I have the hole, and that moves the hole outside. And now the hole on the right on this outside of thing and says, oh, well, can I reduce this expression? I surely can. And this is just 7. So again, I have evaluated this in a way that has nothing to do with stacks or anything like that, but gotten the ultimate answer. So this kind of evaluation is called a reduction. And there's not just one way of reducing things. And that's actually that. We'll find out why that is a powerful concept that can really be very useful later on. But let's look at another way that expression could be reduced. So again, I'm going to start in the same way. I'm going to go off and say, okay, I'm going to have the whole on the left. I'm going to go in to say, okay, yes, this is an application form. So I need to see if this is a procedure or a function that can be called. It certainly is. So now I've gone off and this plus is fully reduced. But now I say, okay, I'm going to introduce a hole for every single argument for that application form. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try to reduce all those holes down at once or move them forward at once. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go off and say, boom, this is fine. Okay, what's here? Oh, this is a literal. Okay, that's 1. That's fine. Okay, now I want to try to reduce this, which means I have to go inside this context. And now I need to determine if star is actually a procedure or a function I can call. It is. So I do the same thing. Boom, I add in a hole for all the arguments, and I try to resolve them all at once. And what I can do here is now I do have a rule that says, okay, I got this resolved hole here. I have this rule that I have a hole after this thing that's fully reduced. Boom, I can actually substitute the value of this thing back in there, move the hole outside, and I get 7. And so I've got this exact same thing, but since I'm doing multiple holes and reducing things in multiple steps, it's taking less time to do the same reduction. So the thing about it is that one could ask, it's like, well, are 2 versions of reduction actually the same? And by more formally defining the rules of reduction and asking this question, you can define the semantics of the language. This is called reduction semantics. And one of the reasons that this comes up is that Racket itself has a whole way of coming up with, it's got a package called regex, which allows you to describe and reduction semantics in a Racket program and understand how certain expressions would be reduced using those reduction semantics. And there's a great textbook about it. And so you can actually explore these ideas very formally using the Racket programming language and this package that was defined for it. Now, the thing about it is that as an exercise, you could come up with an expression in which these two methods of evaluation are not the same, in which if you did this, they come up with different answers. And that requires a bit of thought, but ultimately there are definitely expressions for which that is these two versions of reduction are not the same. So with this, we have all the notions we're going to need to discuss about continuations. But in the spirit of not making this video super long and burning people out, we're going to head and put a marker here, and we're going ahead and continue this in the next video. Again, if you've been watching this and made it this far, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.